Karoline Leavitt shuts down. Gavin Newsom, crowd, freezes on her final words. The White House press room was packed. Lights glared from mounted cameras. Microphones pointed like weapons. The atmosphere was stiff with expectation. Karoline Leavitt, Donald Trump's press secretary, stepped onto the podium holding a folder thick with papers. Calm, focused. She didn't blink. She was used to the heat, but today it was different. Outside Los Angeles was still smoldering. Video loops of burning cars, masked figures clashing with riot police, and flags from foreign countries waving over American streets played on screens behind the journalists. The country was watching. Karoline looked over the sea of reporters. She saw Raquel from Channel 9 News, the same one who last week asked if Trump's immigration policy was cruel on purpose. Karoline adjusted the mic. "Good afternoon." Silence, not out of courtesy, but because everyone expected a storm. "The President has authorized the federalization of the National Guard in California," she began. "Under U.S. Code, Title 10, he is acting within full legal authority to protect Americans' law enforcement and public property." A few pens stopped moving. Fingers hesitated over keyboards. One reporter raised a hand. Karoline continued before calling on anyone. "Since June 6th, over 330 illegal entrants have been arrested in connection with violent acts during the LA protests. Of those, 113 had prior criminal convictions." She paused. "Additionally, 157 arrests have been made for obstruction assault, and in one case, attempted murder of a police officer using a Molotov cocktail." Gasps, murmurs. Karoline held up a photo. Boxes lined up on pavement, labeled masks, riot shields, smoke canisters, branded, professional. This is what was dropped off outside a protest site, by an unmarked van. Who funds this? The silence was heavier now. No one here seems to ask, but the President does. And he's not backing down until he gets answers. Raquel's voice cut in. "Are you implying foreign governments are involved?" Karoline didn't flinch. "I'm implying someone's paying for riot gear for non-citizens to throw fire at ICE agents. If that leads us abroad, so be it." Click, cameras flashed. She turned a page. "Let's talk about the masks." Images slid onto the projection behind her. Black armored, sealed in plastic, uniform. This wasn't grassroots. This wasn't spontaneous. Raquel again, but the First Amendment. Karoline raised her hand slightly. "The President supports peaceful protest. He does not support explosives, arson, or imported chaos." A pause. "Ask yourself what kind of protester throws glass bottles at Border Patrol while waving another country's flag." The room shifted. Tension wasn't new here, but this was televised intensity. Someone whispered near the back. She came loaded. Karoline's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "America has always welcomed immigrants, but not violence. Not this." A moment of stillness. Then Elon Musk issued an apology this morning, a voice called from the middle row. "Does the President accept it?" Karoline blinked for the first time. "The President acknowledges Mr. Musk's statement. But our focus remains on the safety of our cities. The apology doesn't put out fires in LA." Fingers moved again, notebooks scratched. Another question: is the President using this chaos to distract from Musk's contract investigations? Now Karoline looked straight at the camera. "The only distraction is trying to pretend our streets aren't burning." She closed the folder. "But if you need more data," she slid a USB into the podium console, and screens behind flickered to DHS footage, riots, chases, burning cruisers. "And just so we're clear, last night's arrests included non-citizens armed with steel rods and frozen water bottles." The footage paused on a masked individual lighting a bottle. "That," she said, "isn't free speech. That's felony assault." No one dared interrupt now. Karoline leaned forward. "We are not banning voices. We are protecting lives. That's what Title 10 authorizes." Reporters exchanged glances. One whispered, "She's not blinking." And she wasn't, not once. This was only the beginning. The footage looped behind her stopped. A still image lingered, an ICE agent crouched behind a burning squad car. hand over his helmet shielding from flying debris. Karoline let it sit there. "You want to talk about human rights," she said. "Ask that officer's family what they think of Molotov cocktails." No one spoke, even Raquel was silent. Then Karoline stepped back from the podium, unplugged the USB, and walked around the side. She didn't leave. She took a chair in the front row, right across from the reporters. A rare move, an intentional move. "I'm not hiding behind this podium today," she said. "You're going to look at me and ask your questions like Americans, face to face." The journalists stiffened. Some adjusted their jackets. Others opened fresh notepads. The camera operators zoomed in. Raquel cleared her throat. "Miss Leavitt, about the governor, are you saying Gavin Newsom is complicit in this chaos?" Karoline didn't blink. "I'm saying he's been too busy auditioning for 2028 to run California in 2024. The room erupted softly. Smirks, gasps, a stifled laugh. Karoline leaned in. He gave a speech. The president gave a plan. One chose optics. The other chose order. "But what about the military being used for domestic policing?" another reporter started. Karoline cut in. "Under Title 10, National Guard units can be federalized when state resources fail to restore order. And let's be clear, ICE officers were being pelted with glass. Border agents were bleeding." She opened the folder again. Photos. Not grainy, not anonymous. Close-up shots. Agents' bruised, squad cars destroyed. One image, a hand holding a steel pipe. Another, a protester lighting a firework inside a trash can. "These aren't protesters," Karoline said. "These are tacticians." "Are you confirming federal arrests of foreign operatives?" someone asked from the back. Karoline nodded slowly. "I'm confirming that some of those arrested carried foreign identification and entered through illegal border crossings in the last 90 days. More typing. Journalists were no longer debating, they were documenting. And we're working with DHS to trace who's coordinating the drop-offs," she added. "We found pallets, labeled, serial-coded, not homemade." Raquel found her voice again. "If these are coordinated attacks, why isn't the administration declaring a national emergency?" Karoline exhaled through her nose. "Because words won't fix this. Action will." She stood. "The declaration isn't needed when the president already moved assets under lawful jurisdiction. Marines are supporting ICE with perimeter security. They're not conducting raids. They're protecting officers so they can do their jobs." A young reporter in the second row raised his hand nervously. "Are any diplomatic channels being explored with countries suspected of funding these elements?" Karoline stepped toward him. "That's ongoing. I won't get ahead of our intelligence briefings. But if foreign actors are identified, consequences will follow. Financial, diplomatic, criminal." Click. Another photo went up on the projector. This time a table stacked with boxes labeled in another language. Cyrillic letters. Next to it, a California state flag. The room inhaled together. "This," Karoline said quietly, "is not a conspiracy, it's a crisis." A reporter finally asked what many had been thinking. "Is this leading to a larger operation, something beyond LA?" Karoline nodded. "Yes. There are similar signs in Austin, Portland, and Chicago, but LA was the test site, the flashpoint. And why there?" Karoline looked over the crowd. "Because California's sanctuary policies made it the softest entry point, and its leadership," she paused, "made the hardest decisions avoidable." The projection faded to black. Karoline returned to the podium. "We are not targeting immigrants. We are targeting chaos. And when chaos hides behind flags, masks, or hashtags, it still burns." She let that hang. The room wasn't silent from fear. It was silent from reckoning. Because now they weren't just hearing a press secretary. They were hearing the voice of an administration preparing for something much bigger. And Karoline Leavitt had just made that painfully clear. The moment Karoline stepped away from the podium again, there was no pause. The reporters surged forward, not physically, but verbally. Every hand shot up. Voices overlapped. Raquel didn't wait for permission. "Miss Leavitt, do you have evidence that foreign nations are actively funding these protest supplies? Or is this conjecture?" Karoline met her eyes. "It's not conjecture, it's logistics." She lifted a page from the folder. It had shipping manifests, translated, time-stamped, logged through third-party drop zones. These shipments were routed through ports in Vancouver and Ensenada before being trucked into Los Angeles, labeled as construction equipment, yet none of the addresses they were delivered to matched any construction sites. The projector lit up again, a map. Red dots clustered around downtown LA. We believe they were intended for distribution points. A low hum of whispers moved through the room. What about domestic groups? Another voice challenged. There are American organizations accused of escalating protest tactics too. Karoline didn't blink. If American citizens are coordinating with illegal foreign actors to incite violence, they'll be prosecuted under domestic terrorism statutes. Period. She let that settle. This administration isn't choosing sides, it's choosing safety. A new reporter raised his voice. Do you believe the protests are being used as cover for political destabilization? Yes, Karoline said without hesitation. And not just political destabilization, social unraveling, targeted attacks on law enforcement, federal property, and cohesion. This isn't civil discourse, it's engineered unrest. A silence fell again. Then Raquel came back. So you're accusing activists of being part of an international insurgency? Karoline shook her head slightly. No, I'm accusing whoever funds pallets of riot gear and disguises it as humanitarian aid of being part of an insurgency. Most activists have no idea they're being used. She tapped the folder. The ones who do those are the ones we're after. Click. New image. A man with a megaphone, recognizable. The crowd in the room stirred. He had appeared on late-night TV just a week prior defending the protests. Karoline's voice remained steady. This man was arrested with a forged Venezuelan passport and $18,000 in crypto transactions tied to darknet marketplaces. That's not protest, she said. That's infiltration. A younger reporter near the front leaned forward. How do you know these arrests aren't political retaliation? Karoline leaned too. Because this administration doesn't retaliate with words. It responds with receipts. She dropped the next set of documents on the podium. Email chains, financial records, travel itineraries. Every one of these arrests was reviewed by the Department of Homeland Security and verified against multiple databases. No citizen has been detained without probable cause, and no detainee is held without independent legal review. Unlike what you're seeing in the footage, she added, where protesters are throwing lit projectiles at officers behind barricades. She paused, let the room exhale. This isn't about criminalizing dissent, Karoline said. It's about protecting the right to dissent by preventing it from being hijacked by chaos. A murmur of agreement even came from the back. That didn't happen often. One voice, older, more deliberate, rose. If the president supports peaceful protest, will he address the nation with that message? Karoline nodded. He will, on Saturday night, ahead of the military parade. And what will he say? Karoline looked over the crowd. He'll say this: we do not silence voices. We protect them from being drowned out by fire. Cameras clicked again. Then came the pivot, not from Karoline but from the press. A voice from the back. What about the governor's request to limit federal presence? Karoline's eyes narrowed. Governor Newsom doesn't have the constitutional authority to overrule federal security operations in a national emergency, and we will not leave ICE and Border Patrol agents without backup. So this is a military occupation. Karoline's response was ice. It's a civilian rescue. Gasps, pens scribbled, phones buzzed. One reporter caught on. Are you drawing a line between military enforcement and tactical support? Exactly, Karoline said. Our Marines aren't arresting civilians. They're holding the line so our law enforcement can function safely. A beat passed, then another question. Has the National Guard made any arrests? No, Karoline said. They provide overwatch protection and barrier control. Arrests are conducted by ICE local law enforcement or FBI when applicable. What about social media? Raquel asked suddenly. There are videos trending right now suggesting excessive force by federal agents. Karoline nodded. We've seen them, and we're reviewing every case. But I caution, the public edited clips don't tell the full story. Click. The projector changed. Two videos side by side. One showed a border agent tackling a protester. The second wider footage showed the protester seconds earlier throwing a bottle that hit another agent in the head. This, Karoline said, pointing to the second, is why context matters. She stepped back again, not retreating, recentering. Another reporter stood. Is it true that the president has authorized cyber surveillance of protest organizing groups? Karoline didn't blink. I cannot comment on ongoing cyber operations, but any monitoring conducted is subject to FISA court oversight, constitutional review, and DOJ clearance. Does that include American citizens? If an American citizen is coordinating violence, yes. The Constitution protects speech, not sabotage. The tension now was less confrontational, more bracing. Everyone in the room realized the scale of what they were hearing. This wasn't just a press conference anymore. This was a declaration of posture. A choice. Karoline walked back to the projector, turned off the display. You can debate methods, she said, but you cannot deny what's happening. Cities are burning, officers are bleeding, and someone somewhere is supplying the fire. She let the quiet rise again. I came here today to show you what we see, not to spin, not to soothe, to state. Her hand touched the podium firm. And now the president will do the same, Saturday night, prime time. She looked toward the cameras. America has a choice to make. Safety isn't partisan. Security isn't politics. Either we stand behind those who risk their lives to defend our streets, or we stand by while they fall. No one clapped, but no one argued. Outside, somewhere far from the White House, another crowd gathered, another fire lit. But inside this room the spark had shifted, and Karoline Leavitt had struck it word by word. The press room emptied slowly. Some reporters lingered, whispering theories into their phones, recording reactions for their news segments. Others made direct calls to editors and producers, reviewing sound bites and drafting scripts. Karoline had left the podium, but not the battlefield. The footage had aired live, and the uploads were already going viral. The hashtag, #YesSir Receipts, Not Rhetoric, started trending within minutes. By sunset, the internet was ablaze. Some praised her poise and clarity. Others accused her of state propaganda, but no one denied her dominance. Karoline Leavitt had taken control of the national conversation. In the West Wing, the mood shifted. Her briefing had exceeded expectations. Even members of the senior advisory team, initially skeptical of her blunt delivery, nodded in approval. But for Karoline, the press room wasn't the end. It was only the public face. Behind the scenes, a digital war was brewing. That evening, she entered a secure situation room adjacent to the White House cyber operations team. Inside, glowing monitors displayed heat maps of protest activity, trending hashtags, VPNs, foreign login attempts, and encrypted message boards. A DHS official greeted her. You stirred a hornet's nest, he said, sliding over a tablet. Karoline didn't smile. She tapped through the data. Telegram group memberships had surged 42% since the briefing. Several groups that used to discuss domestic policy were now flooded with tactics on evading drone surveillance, using burner phones and homemade explosive designs. They're adapting, she said. The NSA liaison pointed to one screen. We're seeing layered proxy relays from Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia bouncing through mid-tier ISPs in Texas and Oregon. Some of them pose as social justice sites, but their DNS data links back to flagged propaganda farms. Karoline exhaled sharply. So now the battlefield isn't just the street, it's the stream. The official nodded, and it's about to go deeper. He brought up a satellite image of a warehouse complex outside Bakersfield. ICE intercepted a truck carrying over 200 unregistered gas masks, bundled in containers labeled livestock vitamins. The manifests were signed digitally by a company that doesn't exist. Who owns the land, she asked. Nominally, a shell corp in the Cayman Islands, but the fund that capitalized the purchase is traced to a media firm that received offshore transfers last year from a donor listed under both Russian and Venezuelan aliases. Karoline closed the folder. And this is just California. Yes, but it's also metastasizing, the liaison said. We're now tracking active chatter in Arizona, New York, and even as far as Ohio. Coordinated flash mobs disguised as spontaneous protest cells. Funded, prepped, armed. Likely, the digital trail's clearer than the physical one. Karoline stood, briefed the president at 6 a.m. I'll prep talking points tonight. The official paused. You realize what this looks like if we're wrong. She turned steady. We're not. But if we wait until it's undeniable, the damage will be irreversible. Back in her office, Karoline laid out her strategy. The president's Saturday night address had to do three things: calm the public, confront the chaos, and reframe the narrative. She outlined the sequence footage: first, the clearest, rawest clips of violence, then a map overlay showing coordination across states, and finally testimonials from ICE officers and border agents, not read by actors but recorded from their body cams. Authenticity was the weapon now. She reviewed each clip herself, paused, rewound, took notes. One video showed a female officer ducking behind a fence as fireworks exploded inches away. Another showed her afterward, bleeding from a cut above her eyebrow, radioing for backup. Karoline watched in silence, then copied the timestamp. This plays third, she murmured. Right before the president's entrance. Outside her window, Washington slept restlessly. Protesters still marched near the Capitol lawn. But inside the White House, every screen, every feed, every word mattered. She called the communications director. I need clearance to include unredacted footage, she said. Real voices, real time. He hesitated. That's a lot of exposure. And it's exactly what they need to see. He agreed. Saturday came fast. By 7 p.m., networks across the country were primed. No debates, no commentary, just a feed straight from the East Room. Karoline stood backstage, a step behind the president. He reviewed his cards, brief, clean, direct. The room filled, media, military families, Gold Star parents, even skeptics. Then the lights dimmed. Karoline gave the nod. The footage began. In silence, the screen played back the moments she had curated. Explosions, chaos. Officers retreating under hailstorms of bottles and flame. Then the voice of the injured female officer. I just want to go home. I just want to see my kids. But I signed up to protect the border, and I'll stand until my legs give out. The audience stilled. Then the president stepped into the light. My fellow Americans, he began, what you've just seen isn't a foreign war zone. It's our streets, our borders, our cities. Karoline listened from behind the curtain. Her words, his tone, the nation's breath all aligned. He continued, let me be clear, this administration will always defend the right to protest. But violence, fire, and infiltration will not wear the mask of patriotism, not on my watch. He outlined new orders, increased cyber countermeasures, expanded federal-local task forces, and a congressional proposal for emergency funding to investigate foreign domestic unrest networks. Then he ended. We do not fear free speech. We fear silence in the face of sabotage. And tonight America is wide awake. Standing ovation. Not all clapped, but all listened. Karoline stepped back into the hallway, phone buzzing nonstop. Alerts, interviews, invitations. But she ignored them. Because she knew Part 5 would not be quieter. It would be darker. And she had already started writing it. On one side, unity. The footage from the president's address was reshared by millions, clipped into reels, and reactions translated into Spanish, Korean, Portuguese. Hashtags like "Woodiar Stand with ICE" and "Protect the Protectors" soared to trending status in over 20 states. On the other, backlash. Celebrities, influencers, and certain media commentators framed the address as propaganda cloaked in patriotism. Civil liberties groups launched live-stream roundtables within hours. One viral post read, "When government shows you body cam footage instead of answering questions, brace yourself." Karoline watched all of it. She had 3 monitors in her office, one for sentiment tracking, one for data from DHS, and one untouched where she replayed the speech. Not for vanity, for memory. We are in the eye of the storm, she told her team. What we do next decides if we hold ground or if the spiral begins. She had already activated Phase 2. That same morning, coordinated audits began at digital infrastructure nodes across major cities. The Department of Justice worked alongside the FCC and private cyber firms to uncover shell networks used to amplify protest coordination. What they found stunned even the most jaded analysts. One report showed a digital relay, 5 IP hops deep, that mirrored content from a California-based activism site onto a Belarusian state server. From there, it was distributed to bot networks in North Africa, which reposted inflammatory clips on social media under American usernames. Fake rage. Real consequences. Karoline convened with senior tech advisors. People believe the chaos is local because the fire is real, but the spark, it was imported. She ordered a digital transparency press brief. This time, no emotion, just numbers, just proof. The briefing was held at noon Monday. Karoline stood next to 3 officials, one from Cyber Command, one from the DOJ, and one from the Department of Energy, who had traced digital patterns affecting grid coordination near the riots. This is what war without uniforms looks like, she said. Charts appeared behind them, data strings, time-stamped pings, foreign character sets hidden in metadata, unregistered domain sales spiking 24 hours before unrest. Then the visuals, side-by-side screen captures of a protest livestream, and the same stream mirrored on a Russian platform with manipulated subtitles. They turned a chant for justice into a call for revolt, Karoline said, digitally, deliberately. The room was stunned. Even hostile reporters held their questions, for now. Later that night, Karoline was reviewing clips again when her assistant rushed in. "Ma'am, we have a breach." Her heart spiked. "Where?" "Not digital," the assistant said. "Physical. Local affiliate of Channel 7 News in Arizona. Their broadcast tower was vandalized. 5 masked individuals left a message." He handed her a still shot. Spray-painted letters across the metal frame. "If you control the signal, you control the war." Karoline stood in silence, then picked up her phone. "Get me local enforcement, then federal response, then encryption backup on every government tower in the Southwest." "And ma'am," the assistant said, "there's more." He placed a flash drive on her desk. It was mailed, no return address. "Arrived just now, marked for you personally." Karoline paused, then inserted the drive. A video loaded. Black screen, white text, 1 sentence. "You started the fire, now burn with it." Then clips, fast, chaotic, protesters, screams, fires, but dubbed, edited to seem as if she herself had called for it. Her words from past briefings twisted into orders. Her face looped over the chaos. A deep fake. Karoline didn't flinch. She watched the entire clip, once, twice. Then she turned to her comms director. "Release the raw footage, all of it. The entire East Room feed, full unedited, no spin. But it's unpolished." "Good," she said. "Let them see truth uncut." The clip was uploaded within 30 minutes. Labeled full White House address, no commentary. It gained 1.2 million views in 2 hours. But the real fight was elsewhere now. Reports flooded in. Coordinated blackouts of police communication channels in Seattle. Drone interference over a federal courthouse in Atlanta. Someone was pushing the limits. Karoline called an emergency cross-agency session. She didn't wait for protocol. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "we are no longer containing fire. We are tracing its architects." Maps appeared, names, transfers, coordinators. "The narrative must shift now," she said, "from protest management to sabotage investigation." She proposed a task force operation signal. Multidisciplinary, agile, authorized to act across state lines. The president approved it within the hour. Karoline stood on the Truman balcony that night, watching as a small protest marched past the gates. No fire, no glass, just signs, voices. She didn't smile, but she nodded. "Let them speak," she whispered, "so long as no one else is speaking for them with fire." She knew what came next wouldn't be broadcast. It would be encrypted. But she would meet it there too. Word by word. It began not with a speech or a press release, but a ripple. The first sign came from a tiny broadcast affiliate in Nevada. Their stream froze during a midday news cycle, then resumed only now playing footage from the White House feed. Uncut, raw, rebroadcast without permission. Within hours, 6 more affiliates followed. Then 10. Independent stations across the Midwest. A university channel in Ohio. A late-night slot in Arkansas. No Chiron. No commentary. Just the president. Just the footage. Karoline didn't authorize it, but she didn't stop it either. "It's happening," she whispered. "The truth is leaking beyond the firewall." Operation Signal, now 2 days old, had begun issuing preliminary reports. Dozens of encrypted forums had gone dark. Some accounts went silent mid-thread. A shared fingerprint, a Python-based media manipulator, script was traced back to an address in Prague, then rerouted to a dormant marketing firm in Austin. Karoline read the report, closed it. "Keep chasing, don't blink." By Wednesday, the White House opened its doors to bipartisan observers. No scripted tours. Just access to digital forensics labs, to cyber logs, to the heart of the counter-op. Skeptics came. Many left changed. Even a known administration critic tweeted, "What I saw today in the ops room terrified me. Not because of what they're doing, but because of what's being done to us." That night, Karoline took a breath. The storm had not passed, but the wind was shifting. She walked again to the Truman balcony, watched the Capitol glow, listened to faint echoes from the city streets below. They were quieter now, still marching, still questioning, but with fewer masks, fewer flames. She turned to her aide. "Have we updated the president?" "Yes, ma'am. He asked if he should prepare another address." Karoline thought, then shook her head. "Not yet. Let the silence say what words can't." She looked out over the Capitol once more. A city divided, a country tested, but tonight at least truth had a signal, and Karoline Leavitt had helped amplify it.